Kids, you're back. Aloha to all my subscribers and looky-loos for as long as you can last. I think it's going to be a little bit longer this time because it's a happy Sunday and I told you I'd have something fantastic for you. And I believe I have something. Yeah. I got another little kitty, the cross-eyed kitty that just came by to say hello again. She is a character. I just fed her and she wants to say hello for as long as she can. Sort of like a looky-loo. Hello, hello, and then I must say goodbye. There she goes. So this thumbnail today, on this Sunday, Happy President's Day. Hail to the chief. President's Day. We're going to do a thumbnail on, I mentioned in the past, dreams. Dreams come true and how important they are. Excuse me. And I've been thinking all week on what I was going to do. And it just came to me a few minutes ago, actually, that it's going to be on this particular dream that came true for Uncle Martin. It is so, it's one of the craziest dreams that I ever had, so I figured I gotta tell you that I can't see it, I can't touch it, I don't remember it. Those people I have something for. And those people that say, well, yeah, dreams do come true, well, I got something for you too. I think I have something for everyone this time. I believe I do. So this dream, first of all, it occurred on a very strange situation. My cousin Jim is involved in this. So he's one of my, you know how you have cousins, friends, whatever, that they're like your brother? This is the guy. He's a brother that I never had, all right? And so Jim says, let's go camping. And I said, this is right up my alley. I love camping. He says, but let's go for a week. I can get off for a week. And he's a surgical tech at the time, orthoscopic, goes into the knees and the camera. He moves it around for the doctor. Doctor says, yeah, go over here, go over here. Yeah. And then those people know what I'm talking about. So he was into that at the time. He's moved on, but into a different category. I'm not going there. So he says, let's go camping. I said, yeah, I want to go camping. And then he says, okay, let's pick a date. And he picks the date. Okay, so we have a date. Now, for some reason, well, I stayed up all night. And he comes over a day early. He comes in, he said, at 6 o'clock in the morning. I've stayed up all night. And he says, let's go camping now. I said, no, it's tomorrow. Tomorrow we're going camping. He says, no, I got it all loaded. Actually, he didn't have any, he had the ice chest loaded. We were going to take the Volkswagen, my dad's 70 Volkswagen that I had bought, I rebuilt so many times. We called it the Ox. We were going to take the Ox, put the canoe on the top of the Ox, and we'd take off. And he had the ice chest. It was a gigantic ice chest, and $150 worth of food, mostly meat. And he came early. And I said, Jim, we can't do this. I've been up all night. And he says, well, just go to sleep for an hour. I said, okay. If I can sleep 1 hour, I'll be ready. Because I can do that. I can sleep for 1 hour and be vitalized. I'll tell you how to do that too someday. So what I did was, I slept for 50 minutes. He did not give me an hour. The door opened up. It creaked. It woke me up in 50 minutes. I said, Jim. And he says, come on, let's go. I said, I woke up and actually in 50 minutes I felt like I slept 8 hours. So I said, okay. And then I thought, that's the craziest dream I ever had. And this is the dream, kids. It was red. Red means warning. Keep that on the back shelf. Red means warning when you have a red warning dream. means warning. Red. Red means warning. So it was three things. It was, I lost my canoe, which was, he already loaded it on top of the car. Elsie, the cow, will save you. And the third thing was a blonde Viking chick, something with a bathroom, and her name was Gretchen. And I said, that is the goofiest dream I ever dreamt. First of all, I got a canoe. It's already tied down on top of the canoe. Elsie the cow, because in the dream it was Elsie the cow was black and white. So Elsie the cow, as we all know, from Borden Dairy Products, I believe it was 1936. Elsie the cow was their mascot, and if everybody remembers, Elsie the cow was brown, and that was, I had a black and white Elsie, and then a blonde girl, a Viking chick, and bathroom, and her name's Gretchen. This is the goofiest dream I've ever had. So I just put it on the back shelf. I said, and that's what I'm saying. That from there, we have a foundation. We're going to Apache Lake, which is, if anybody knows, you go through Cords Junction in Arizona, you get to Canyon Lake. It's a five-fingered lake, and then 6 miles is Apache Lake. In between there is a Tortilla Flat, which if you sneeze, you'll go right through. It's got a saloon, a grocery store. It's got a jail, but it's old time stuff. We're at Apache Lake. We're at the marina, and from the marina, we knew that we had to go to Party Cove, which is 5 miles away, as anyone will tell you when you get to Apache Lake. Party Cove is pretty cool because you get into the cove and the water's pretty calm, and it's a nice camping area. So we actually get to Party Cove. We're in there for 3 days. We actually had to go back to the marina because we had $150 worth of foods and meats, basically meat and not too many perishables, just frozen meats and stuff, to where we really didn't eat any of that. It was hot. It was July. It was very hot in July, and you pretty much see, we drank all the water. We only brought 2 gallons of water, and we drank that up in 3 days, and well, actually it was 2 days, and so we were canoeing all over the lake, is what I'm saying. We were paddling here, we were paddling there. We were just little paddlers all over the place with this canoe that was unsinkable. That'll be another story on where I bought it, when I bought it, in Canto Park by a father and son that did canoes, hand built, that were unsinkable. That's what I bought, was an unsinkable canoe. And that was in 1980. We're now in 2004. And I tried to sink it, by the way, and I couldn't. So I knew I had an unsinkable boat, okay? All right. That was the other thing. When I woke up out of the dream, I lost my canoe. I lost my canoe. I've got a canoe that's unsinkable. And not only that, it's loaded on top of the car. That's how a goofy dream it was. I said, this is ridiculous. And as you know, in the past episodes, I mentioned how so many of those dreams saved my life. You would think at this point that one would say, well, maybe you should put a little more effort in deciphering this dream. But nah, I just put it on the back shelf. I didn't have time for that. I'm going camping for 7 days. So for 2 days, we drank up all the water, hardly ate any food. And we had to paddle back to the marina. That was 5 miles, so 5 miles down, 5 miles back. We're doing 10 miles, and I'm still feeling pretty positive, and so is he. So we're still paddling. We paddled. There's a high dam and a low dam, and if you look at Apache Lake, it's 17 miles long. So we went from one dam to the other, and then came back. We're paddling quite a few miles with that canoe. We're getting built up. We're getting feeling pretty happy. And I'm just saying, we had a good time for 3 days. And what happened was, it was kind of negative. I I went about 3 miles that way, and I fished. I was fishing, and all of a sudden, 35-mile-an-hour winds came up, and I had to get back to Party Cove, and I couldn't get there because if anybody's been on a canoe, you know what I'm talking about. You can go into the wind, but the wind pushes you back. So what do you have to do? Well, of course, you have to find rocks because I didn't have anybody. I just had myself, and I couldn't get where I had to go. So the only way you could do that is with a person, or go fill up the front bow with rocks. So I put about 250, about 300 pounds of rock in the front because these were really high winds. I'm saying at least it was more than 25-mile-an-hour winds. It was. I know I've been in 50-mile-an-hour winds, and I'm going to say it was probably between, okay, to be honest, 25 to 33-mile-an-hour winds. All right, to where once I had those rocks, I could go right into the wind back to Party Cove. I get back to the cove, and instead of going forward with the rocks, I kind of backed it in to where I was sitting was up on the land part where I had pulled it up. And as I pulled the canoe up onto the landing, which is all rocky area, by the way, there's a big mountain, it's a cove. And Jim, we're both Italian, from that side, he's stirring up a spaghetti sauce, and he's tasting it, and I said, look what I caught. And I caught this like 4.5, 5 pound catfish, and I had a bass, about a 2-3 pound bass. So I thought we were going to have fish, but no, it was, we were going to have spaghetti meatballs. So here he is tasting the sauce, and I'm saying, look what I've got. And he says, your canoe is sinking. And I said, no, I've got an unsinkable canoe. And as I turn around with my fish, my canoe is standing like a pencil. Where I was sitting was up in the air, and where the rocks are going straight. It's going straight down, and the line that I had, it was 50. Well, it was actually only about 15 feet of rope. And I was going to grab that rope. And he says, no, don't grab the rope. And I said, yeah. And so I listened to him. And then it just went straight down. And what happened was it just went straight down. And then it was like a suction that if I would have grabbed it, I would have went down with it. I mean, it was going straight down. And I'm thinking, well, I wonder how deep that is. Well, we'll get to that. You wonder how it could sink, though. Because when I backed it in, I say, where I was sitting and I pulled it in, all the rocks were over here now. And the boats that were coming into the cove had just a little bit of water. Just a little bit of water, just a little bit. So little drop by drop by drop was filling up the canoe. In that short amount of time, those waves had just enough time to put enough water now to where the boat was going up in the air and going down. And I said, don't even worry about it. It's unsinkable. Because I tried sinking it tons of time from 1980 to 2003. Now it's 2004. So I figured, well, you got to stop trying to sink the boat after a while, right? It went down to where it wasn't coming up. Just didn't come up. You know what came up? Do you know what came up? My life preserver, Some of the wood, some of the wood that I put in there for firewood, that came up. The pillow I was sitting on, that came up. There wasn't much else that came up. Everything else pretty much stayed down. It was the rocks were in the bow, and that boat went down. So Jim, he was on the USS Enterprise, and he was an underwater welder. So he says, you know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna take a dive in, and I'm gonna see if I can get it. And I just happened to have a 50-foot rope that I knew was 50 foot because I bought it brand new, and it was a 50-foot nylon rope. So I said, well, I got a 50-foot rope. Why don't you go down there and tie it up, and we'll pull it back up? He says, that's a good idea. So he jumps off, dives into, well, he jumps off. You know, you never dive head first into the water. You've never been in there, kid. You know that. So he jumped in, and then he came back up and said, you know what? It's pretty deep down there, and I need a ballast. So we had an ice chest, a little ice chest that he filled up with rocks, and then we taped it all up because we brought our duct tape with us. Brought a lot of stuff, my binoculars, everything. So he got that, and then he held his breath again, and went, and he was able to go down further. But then he came back up again, and he says, you know what? With this, I could only go down about maybe 22, 30 feet. Then my ears started popping a little bit. It was getting cold, and it was getting really dark, and it's pretty deep down there. I said, well, I wonder how deep it is. So we got the 50-foot rope, and we put a rock around it. Actually, we didn't have to. We had the ballast. So we got the ballast that we had full of rocks, and we tied it to that, and we threw it over into the water. And what happened was, there was it kept going down, and all we had left was about that much rope left. So, well, actually, we had 2 feet. We had 2 foot of 2 foot of the 50-foot rope. It was 48 feet to the bottom. 48 feet is a little deep to be diving without diving gear, by the way, kids. So, what are we gonna do? We have 4 days on this like party cove, and we got 4 days to get back with no canoe. What are we gonna do, kids? What are you gonna do? Well, Jim is flipping out, you know, and I said, don't even worry about it. Come on, what's the matter with you? I had that dream. I had told him about the dream on the way up to Apache Lake, and he says, that's the most stupidest. I think he said stupid. I said goofy. And he said, that's the most stupid dream I ever heard of. There's no way. Well, he says, what? And then I said, well, it did come true, Jim, that I lost my boat. And I lost my canoe. I told you that was going to happen. I didn't say it was going to happen. I said, that was my dream. And then he said, yeah. I said, so don't even worry about it. He says, I got to get back to work in 4 days. I have no phone. I can't call anybody. I'll get fired. They fire you if you can't get back. You know how hospitals are. There's emergencies. So I said, don't even worry about it. We're gonna be saved by Elsie the cow. He didn't think that was funny, but I said, you know, so far it's been coming true. You know, I don't have any fear. You know. In fact, I had a bunch of fireworks for a couple nights. I was lighting off bottle rockets, throwing firecrackers out there at night. I mean, and having a good time. I mean, and he was not very happy for the 4 days anyway, which happens to be all we had left was a bunch of. Thank God, when we ran out of water early, that we canoed that second day for more water. We brought back 20 gallons of water. So we had plenty of water. I'm saying, we got plenty of water. I got this big bottle of Wild Turkey 101. I'm sorry. I don't do that anymore, but back then I did, and I'm having I'm having a great time, and he's laying in his hammock, and he's very upset, and I just got to put this one story out there. It's not funny. It's not funny, kids. You never do this, by the way. But we had just made a meal, and we had a lot of meat that we had not eaten, scraps, and I was going to use it for catfish. Catfish love meat. So in Party Cove, there's where we were. There's a great little distance. There's no way of getting over there. By the way, they kept coming in at nighttime, but we didn't see any people coming in. In the daytime, there was no one coming in. At nighttime, there was a bunch of people coming, and they had diving gear. And how'd you know that? How do you know that? Because I had binoculars, and they were having parties over there in the sand, where they were diving. Their diving gear and everything, and it makes sense because it's 48 feet minimum. And that's what I found out later, that's a lot of people party at Party Cove. And what do? They lose their jewelry, and they lose necklaces, and they lose all this stuff. So all these divers are over there trying to find all the goodies down there that nobody can dive down and get, obviously. I couldn't even get my canoe, let alone anything else, right? So they kept going in and out. We couldn't get a hold of them. We could just see people, but they were at nighttime, nobody in the daytime. So what happened was this one time when we were cooking up the extra, there's a canyon down the way where all these, on the other side of the shore, there's a canyon. It's a wide, and it goes to a narrow canyon. And this one particular night, there was an animal. There was an animal that was getting eaten. Sorry, that's not funny, but it was a cow. I think it was a cow that got strayed there because it was really mooing. I don't think it was in labor. I think it was getting eaten. And I thought, well, normally, if a cow or something's getting eaten, you'll hear the coyotes, because coyotes really get excited when they find their prey. As everyone knows, it's been out in the desert. They get a rabbit and or whatever it is. They're all telling everybody else to come out here. But we didn't hear any of that. It was just this one animal screaming bloody murder down deep in the canyon, which wasn't putting any of this together until later. I guess that's why Jim was so upset what Uncle Martin did, which I wasn't even thinking, really. All the extra meat that I had that we had not eaten, I wanted either, I think we had, whatever it was, I wrapped it all up, and I wanted to put it somewhere safe. So where Jim was, he had his hammock hooked up to one tree and another tree, and there was a rock shelf, which had a nice indentation. So I figured, well, this meat will be safe over here. And I put it up on the shelf, and he was sleeping. And, his head was not too far from it, but it was up on the shelf. And then the mountain, kind of went up and over that way. All right. The next morning he wakes up and says, "Who put this meat here?" Well, obviously it was me. And I said, "Well, what's the matter with you?" And he says, "Didn't you hear that cow getting eaten down there?" And I said, "Well, I don't know. I guess there was something down there." He says, "Could have been a mountain lion." I said, "Nah, there's no mountain lions around here." By the way, that was the episode with the paw print that I found when I was 5 up in Flagstaff. I believe it was episode 45, A and B. But I said, "There's no mountain lions around here." He says, "Well, I believe there are." And so just put that on the back shelf. We let that go. By the way, I had to Google this when I was doing this. I said, "Apache Lake, do they have any mountain lions?" And it just so happens they do have black bear. They do have mountain lions. They have They have elk, deer, antelope, I believe longhorn sheep, turkey on the ground, and then they have bald eagles, falcons, red-tailed hawks that soar in the air. That's what Google told me just before I was going to do this. So I guess he had something to be excited about because there were mountain lions, and it could have been one that was eating the animal that was yelling out so much. So that's why I say, kids, never put any meat next to anybody when they're sleeping. It would be very negative. So it was the fourth day. Finally, we get a boat in the daytime. Because Jim, it's the whole time he's flipping out about how he can't get back to school, back to the hospital. And I said, don't worry, Elsie. I kept telling him for 4 days, don't worry, Elsie the cow will save us. And he said, he was getting tired of it, but what could he do? I mean, we already lost the canoe. So this guy shows up with a boat, nice big boat. And he says, hey, what are you guys doing here? How'd you get here? I told him the story. He says, oh, that's too bad. And then I said, you know what? We really do need to get back to the car and get this guy to work in time, because he's got to go to work by midnight, you know, and this is in the morning. I had just caught a big catfish. It was a nice sized cat. I don't know how many pounds it was, but I'm not kidding. You know, how big was it? It was that big? No, it was really a nice sized catfish. And I pulled it up the stringer. I said, and he says, I've been fishing with my son for 5 days here. We haven't caught a thing. And I go over to the water. I say, yeah, look at this catfish I just got. And he says, I'll tell you what, I'll give you a ride back if you give my son that catfish. I said, it's his. Absolutely. So we're on the boat. We're going back to the car. And the guy says, he asked, well, he says, you got anything to drink? I said, yeah, I got some Wild Turkey 101. You can have the whole bottle, because I didn't drink that much anyway. So it was yours, buddy. And then I told the guy the dream in the boat. And I said, you know what? I already knew about losing the canoe, because I woke up and my dreams come true. So I knew the canoe was going to be. I didn't know it until it was sunk. But then I said, you know, the strangest thing is, I said, is this dream doesn't make sense to me, because Elsie the cow, Elsie the cow is Elsie the cow's gonna save you. And he says, and he looked puzzled, like, what? Elsie the cow? I said, yeah, Elsie the cow. And I said, Elsie the cow, I said, as you know, is a mascot for Borden Company, the dairy products, and she's brown. And my dream was black and white. She was an Elsie cow, black and white. So he had the visor on the boat, has a visor and a mirror. And over the mirror, he had this hat, a cap over it. And he takes the hat off of the visor, and here hanging is a black and white cow. And he says, this is Elsie the cow. And his son said, and I looked at the son, he says, that's Elsie the cow. That's Elsie the cow. We're in a boat with Elsie the cow that saved us. The boat saved us, and Elsie the cow was there. Their mascot. It's the mascot. They had Elsie the cow as the mascot. Isn't that crazy? So two came true right there. So as we get to the car, we don't have a canoe now, but we have our ice chest at least. So we're gonna go. We wanted some pancakes, and because you know, as you well know, anybody in Arizona, Tortilla Flats, that saloon there has best pancakes. So I said, Jim, you got plenty of time to get to work. The ox will make it there. The ox, my white Volkswagen. I said, the ox will make it back home. Let's stop off for some pancakes. And then he says, okay, all right, sounds good to me. Sounds positive. He says, but your dream didn't come true. Because now he's saying, because you never met the blonde Viking chick, Gretchen. Yeah, that's okay. We go to the saloon. We open up the doors. In the corner is this blonde-haired girl, and she's scolding very loud her partner. She's screaming on top of her voice. She's saying, "This pretty loaded saloon full of people," and she's screaming at him, saying, "You are the worst lover I've ever had. You're out of here, bah, bah, bah." And I'm thinking, that's kind of private stuff, you know? I mean, why would she be screaming that at this guy? And he's like cowering down, you know, and I don't know, I didn't think much of it. You know, we just went up and sat on the saddle, because if you go into the bar, you'll see what I'm saying. It's everybody sits into a saddle up at the bar. And then there's tables that you can sit at too. Well, they were at the tables, and we wanted to sit up. We're cowboys. You know, I even had a cowboy hat. Well, actually, I had a straw hat, but it was cowboy. So I'm sitting on the stool, the saddle. He's sitting on his saddle. We're ordering our pancakes. And by the way, I had my camera with me, and because I was taking pictures. I was taking pictures through the whole time. Which I may or may not bring forward. I guess I might have to, because I'll tell you why. I'm sitting at the bar. We're ordering our pancakes, and she, I don't know, I'm looking over and still listening to her screaming at this poor guy. And now she's looking at me. And I'm looking at her, she's looking at me. And she comes over with her camera. She says, I have a camera. And she says, Will, okay. She says, I have this camera. This is the same camera. She says, we have the same camera. I said, yeah, well, there's a lot of these cameras around. And she says, would you mind, with my camera, would this fella next to you, would you take a picture with me? Could we take a picture together with my camera? This is what she's coming over to say. I said, well, yeah, I guess so. But the only thing I can say is, you know, if he's taking a picture of you and me with your camera, I got a camera. He's going to take a picture of you and me with my camera. He says, that's fine with me. So we take a picture. Cousin Jim takes her camera picture of her with me and her. She has her arm around me. I have my arm around her. Now with my camera, Jim takes a picture of that also. And then right after that, by the way, when I find that picture, I will bring it out, and whenever that is, I have it. I will search for it, and I will get it. And then I even blew it up, because this is what happened. I said, before we even took the pictures, I said, the only way is two things. She says, yes. I said, we take a picture with my camera, and your name has to be Gretchen. My name is Gretchen. Jim looks at me. I look at him. I said, no way. No way. This is crazy. There's no way. And I found out her name was Gretchen because her boyfriend was screaming, Gretchen, come on back here. So after the second picture, she's saying, where's the girls' bathroom? I said, well, it's just right over there, right around the corner. She says, could you please show me where the bathroom is? And I said, nah, I don't think that's a good idea. So, see, two out of three, Uncle Martin knows what's going on at this point, as everyone else should know, that there was something going to go on in that bathroom that I had no intentions of even going forward with. I had been warned enough times in my life that I do never go against my dreams. So here, I was being Anyway, I said, no, I don't think that's a good idea. And then at that point, her boyfriend was screaming, Gretchen, come on back over here. So she went back over. And my point being, um, those were three things that happened right after each other, right after that dream that I had. Only 50 minutes sleep is what I'm saying. It doesn't matter how long you sleep, kids. The dreams are very important when they come your way, to write them down immediately. Um, and then ponder upon them. As I said in the past episodes, it could be the goofiest dream you've ever had. Those are the ones that you really have to think about. What do they mean? What do they mean? And start asking that really soon, because you shouldn't wait until, well, 7 days. I didn't have to ask. They were coming true right in front of my face. Every day something was happening. I lost my canoe. Elsie the cow saved us. I was just waiting. When the heck is this girl Gretchen going to show up? I was ready, let me tell you. Uncle Martin was ready. So I just had to tell you that little cute little story because it was something that happened to me that did come true. And that's what I was saying with dreams. They're not to take for amusement. They can save your life, like I said in the past. So many times on the railroad that they saved my life that even after that, I still didn't. Well, there was only 2 times I didn't listen, and the rest of my life from that point on, I definitely have listened to, even to this very day, which I could probably bring up a few more, but it's not important right now. I'm just saying for everyone out there that has dreams, to please start writing them down, and you'll see that they're not for your amusement, especially when you start seeing that uh, that they're for your benefit, that you can be warned ahead of time, excuse me, on things that may be negative coming your way or positive. It could be positive or negative. We always have positive or negative coming our way. And dreams are the best way to really foresee the things that could come your way. So that's all I got for you today on that little story. That's all. Apache Lake and the canoe. That I do now have another canoe, but and a boat, but that's okay. So until we see each other again, everyone, I must say aloha and be well.